Hey, my friend, it is Matt Little, Provo dating coach, and today I am so stoked to give you a special guest interview. I don't normally do this, but I want to help you with someone who's an expert at approaching and talking with women. And he's really good at this. So I'm excited to welcome my good friend, Nate Clark. He started a company called Connection Heights, and he is one of the things he's really good at is connecting in natural and fun ways. And that is so important if you want to attract the woman of your dreams. So this is going to provide a lot of value for you today. And he's currently hosting social events, seminars, a podcast, and creating a video course called Codes for Connection. And so let's welcome Nate Clark.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's good to be here, Matt. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for being here, Nate. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Life's great. Just got back from Uptown Cheapskate with my wife. We were looking for some new clothes. She lucked out, but I didn't, so that was a bummer for me. But good for her. She found a couple new clothes, and they're practically free because she traded them in. Visited her family, and I'm just happy to have some sunshine to enjoy today. It's been a good Saturday so far.
Well, good. It is a beautiful day today. So I'm super happy to have you and excited for all my listeners here, or watchers, I should say, to learn from you because you're truly an expert. So
thanks, man.
So just to start out, to give us a little bit more context, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you became a dating coach and what you're focusing on right now. I'm sure everyone would love to know.
Yeah, no problem. So I went to college at Utah Valley University, and it was like the beginning of my junior year that I finally took an aptitudes test up at the Career Center to try to figure out exactly what I was going to use my speech communication degree for. And I sat down with a career counselor after taking the personality test and went over my results, and she's like, well, people with your personality have reported being very happy with the following careers. And we went down a list, and dating coach was not on there, but fashion consultant was. And I was like, yeah, there we go. No, I actually chuckled when I saw it because I was like, yeah, right. Like, I would never do that. And then I was like, wait, I've actually already done that, like for friends that have come home from missions and just been like, I don't know what I'm doing with clothes. Like, I need to update my wardrobe. My mom's like told me to go buy new clothes and that she'd help pay for it, but like, I don't know what to buy. Help me. So like, I'd already done things like that, and like while it was fun, I realized it at the same time it wasn't something fulfilling enough that I'd want to do it as a career. I wanted to do something that helped people with a little bit more than just how they look. I wanted to do something that helped people with how they feel. And that helps them be happy long term. And I don't know of anything that helps us be happy long term like a healthy, long lasting romantic relationship. So
well said.
That's kind of the I guess journey that led me to deciding I wanted to do something like this. I reached out to Elisa Goodwin Snell, who you also know, and asked her. The only way I could talk to her was to sign up for like a free consult. So we hopped on the phone, and she's like, "All right, tell me about your dating life." And I was like, "Actually, like it's not bad. What I wanted to talk to you about was being your intern." And she was like, "Oh, okay." So we talked, and I was her first intern and her first dating coach and training. And it was cool to sit in on her appointments and kind of be trained by her and help her record training videos and start to create her course that she has for certifying dating coaches. And it was just cool to learn from someone who'd already been a marriage and family therapist and who had turned full-time dating coach, not like full-time, but that being her only real job that she did outside of being an awesome mother. And that also had so much success in helping so many of her clients get married. At the point when I met her, like the previous 2 or 3 years from when I met her, she'd helped over 121 of her clients get married. And I was like, whoa, that's cool.
That's awesome.
There's got to be something there, right? And so I started learning from Elisa about attachment theory and codes of chivalry and male and female psychology and all that fun stuff. And as I learned and kind of started to help her out with things a little bit, she was like, Nate, you've got a gift for this. You've got a coach. So she helped me start a business website, kind of walked me through my first couple of clients, and I coached for the rest of college. And then, I started to get really interested in events because of all the research I'd done, seeing that one of the biggest needs in this area for dating is just places to meet people in person that help it be more comfortable and more, I guess, just easier to like approach people, get to know them, get out of your comfort zone, and easier to connect. So, I started working on social events. I've been doing that for the last year and a half or so, and then recently, with a good friend of mine, Peter Compton, my business partner, we decided to start a video course. The one that you already referenced, Codes for Connection, which is basically a series of seminars, podcasts, and the video series that help people learn to overcome the 8 big fears of dating that we've identified in this area anyway. Awesome. That's what I'm working on. That's kind of how it got started.
Well, great. That's awesome to hear. Elisa Goodwin Snell. Yeah, she's awesome. She is the one that opened my eyes to this and really turned, like, I bought her course and her book and everything, and it changed my life. And so I'm a changed man. I went even deeper and just kept learning, and now I'm a dating coach too, and it's fun.
It's so fun.
And it's so awesome seeing clients make little changes that make a big difference in their life. And so, there's so many situations where guys are in a social setting and it's hard for them to approach someone. It's hard to, like, maybe, there's lots of ward or stake activities, and right now with COVID, not so much. But there are, online dating apps and stuff like that. But that isn't always as powerful as like meeting and connecting in person, because that's where the true attraction happens, is in that physical like space, not in a virtual world. So let me ask you, like, what advice would you give to guys who are scared of approaching? Like, I know that's a big question, but how can you like just go and connect with someone in a natural way? Enlighten us.
Yeah. Well, in my experience, both with myself in the past while I was single and with a lot of friends, it seems to be hardest when there's actually interest there, when you actually find them attractive. And you actually like if that's not there, then I feel like most guys are like, I can go and talk to anyone, right? And if you're not that way, guys, like, it's okay. Like, we live in a world that's teaching us not to be anymore, so don't worry if you struggle with it in general. But it does seem to add an extra level of like nervousness and like, I don't feel like myself, I don't know what to say, I want to hide, kind of a feeling when she's like actually someone that you think you'd be interested in or that you're actually attracted to. Things to do to approach in natural, comfortable ways. I guess it's my answer would be kind of twofold. There's the mental, emotional side of things, and then there's the communication and action side of things. Do you have a preference on which one I start with or which one I focus on, Matt?
Let's go in that order.
Okay, great. So mental, emotional side of things, typically it's just good old fashioned fear. That's the big roadblock with approaching people. And so if we can identify where that fear stems from and resolve it, then it helps a ton. That's one of the big things we talk about with Codes for Connection. So was there something you're going to say?
Well, yeah, I want to jump in right there. So what is the fear? Where's that coming from? Like, what is stopping a guy from approaching someone, if he's, why does he have fear in that moment? If he's like really attracted, like you just talked about, how if it's someone they're really attracted to, that's when it gets scary, right?
Yeah. No, I think the most common one is a fear of rejection, right? There's a lot of other ones that could also be the case instead. It's not the same for everyone, but a fear of rejection, right? And what I always tell people when that seems to be something they're struggling with is rejection's a lie.
What do you mean by that? Wow, that's a big bomb to drop.
Rejection, the way we think about it, doesn't actually exist. The way we think about rejection in our modern day society and the way that word has evolved over time, especially in dating, seems to imply that there's an imbalance of power, that if they reject me, they're better than me and they have more power, and it's a sign that I've stepped out of my league, and all of these things, right? It's going to be embarrassing. All of these things that kind of circle that fear of rejection, when in reality, it's none of that. Oftentimes we're surprised and we're scared of what seems to be the uncommon case of rejection, or at least like, I don't know, there's a couple of different ways we could see it. Either we think that everyone should like us, and so we're surprised if they reject us, or there's that idea that it's an imbalance of power. It means something about me. It means that they're better than me, or something like that. Either way, those are both lies. In reality, rejection is literally just a mismatched level of interest. That's all it is. And that is the rule. Matched levels of interest are the exception. There are exceptions that do happen, but they're few and far in between. And so we shouldn't be surprised and we shouldn't be hurt if someone isn't as interested in getting to know us as we're interested in getting to know them. That's the norm. How many people do we pass every single day that we're not compatible with for a long-term romantic relationship? Most of them. Almost all of them. So we shouldn't be surprised. 90%,
right?
Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised and we shouldn't be hurt when it happens, because that's the rule. That's the norm. Rejection in its true sense, mismatched levels of interest, totally normal, is the norm. So I think that's my brief kind of like overview of the mental emotional side.
Yeah. So with that rejection being the norm, that can be hard because, I mean, it sounds like guys just have this mental model in their mind that, well, it's a mismatch of power, or, oh, I'm embarrassed. I feel so stupid, all this stuff. So Nate, with that being said, how can guys overcome that roadblock, that mental emotional roadblock
of fear of rejection? Well, I think number one, choosing to view rejection in a healthier way, like I just explained, will help a lot. It helped me a lot. It helped me not to take it personally, to realize, look, we're all just imperfect humans trying to figure things out down here on earth. And that's the reality of it. It doesn't matter how perfect someone seems, how much power it seems like they have. We're like, all men are created equal, right? All humans are created equal. And so I think realizing that is huge. But sometimes there's more deep-seated beliefs behind why people fear rejection. And those beliefs, if they're tied to a fear, always have a little bit of a lie in them. They're always a little bit twisted. If a belief leads you to fear something, it's always a lie. And that's what we teach in the Codes for Connection, is how to start to be more aware of your own set of beliefs that fuel your feelings, and how to choose to talk about those with someone until you can kind of unravel the knot and replace it with something that's actually true, like the truth I just described of a mismatched level of interest. That's the rule. It's not the exception. A matched level of interest is the exception. But it is something that happens, and it happens occasionally in dating.
Yeah. So guys really, they have to approach rejection, and it's kind of like, it sounds like it's a numbers game, because the rule is mismatched levels, right? And so you have to keep going and approaching rejection until you can get rejected enough until you find your exception, right?
In a way, I would say I'd have to push back against that a little bit. I thought of dating that way for a long time, that it's a numbers game. And I think that in a certain sense and to a certain degree, that can be a healthy thing, because we realize that, hey, like, I am going to need to take time to be like proactive about meeting lots of new people.
Yep.
Not only because it's only going to happen every once in a while that I find someone I'm interested in, but also because of the fact that we all need to practice, and no one's going to be able to practice relationships if no one ever, like goes out of their comfort zone to meet new people. And so I wouldn't say I used to think that numbers game, but now since being married and especially the things God taught me leading up to marriage, man, he cares about this one a lot, and his hand is definitely in it. And therefore, I think it's yes about being proactive, but realizing that God's timing is huge.
Yeah,
God's timing
definitely.
is huge. And it doesn't matter how many dates we go on. If it's not time to meet someone that's a good fit, we're not going to meet them until it is time.
Yeah, that's something I tell my clients is you got to make sure you're doing your part and God will help with the rest. And
so true.
And something I've learned very personally is that you can be dating and going out of your way to work hard in dating, but there's also an element of working smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
I want my clients to actually be lazier. Not lazier if they're not taking any action, but I don't want them like wearing themselves out doing action. I want them working smarter and, attracting in a way that it's just efficient and effective for them, and giving them success and giving them little wins. So even if it turns out it's actually not a good fit with that person, they built their confidence and they got better at it. And that helps overcome that fear of rejection, is having confidence in those small wins. I'm sure there's more there. Let me ask you this question on this note. So something that I think is really effective to overcome that fear of actually approaching is to have a plan, to be prepared basically, right? To have a plan for here's how I can approach, and here's how I'll handle either rejection or acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, your thoughts on that and what you recommend.
No, that's huge. If you are prepared, you shall not fear, right?
That's right.
And so that's probably the first element of communication that I teach people. That number one, you just got to know how to respond in a confident, gracious manner, even a selfless manner, so that you can turn what could be a really awkward, painful, unsure, there's lots of unsurety kind of a conversation into something completely the opposite, which is possible. I've done it. Yeah, it's completely possible, but it takes, like you said, a little bit of preparation on knowing how to respond in a way that's confident, gracious, and maybe even a little bit selfless. And an example of that I like to share with people is a time when I was texting a girl that I was more acquaintances with than anything. I'd seen her at a couple of group things, and I was texting her to see if she was going to come to the next group thing that our mutual friend had invited us to. She was giving all these excuses, and it wasn't the first time that I'd kind of gotten a little bit of I don't think she's quite having it as far as being interested in going out, right? So number one, I chose to save time and effort by asking her just straight up. I was like, hey, I get the feeling you're not quite feeling it as far as I'm interested in getting to know you. That's why I want to go to this tonight. But I get the feeling you're not quite feeling it as far as going on dates and stuff. And she was like, yeah, to be honest, I'm not. Thanks for asking, right? And that's when the response that I had practiced came into use. And I said, hey, thanks for the brave answer. You know how hard it is to find a girl that's willing to be that straightforward and honest? Thank you. I'm even more impressed. And my philosophy is, if I don't wind up being a specific girl's Mr. Right, maybe I can help her find him. It's I'm totally still going to invite you to things because I know a lot of really awesome guys, and who knows what'll happen, right? So I'm totally still going to invite you to group things. And she was like, oh my gosh, that means so much. Thank you. I've got your back as well. And she's like, actually, there's something this Saturday that the group's doing. do you want to come? And I was like, actually, I've got a date. But it was cool that like her rejecting me turned into her inviting me to something because I responded so well.
Yeah, totally. That is such a good example. One of my favorite like rejection plans that I had when I was single was when I'd approach, and if I got rejected, I would just say, "Hey, well, no worries. Just take it as a compliment, and I hope you have a great day."
I like that.
And so
Simple,
you're
short.
like, it's especially effective, like if they're married and you didn't know, if they're engaged and you didn't know, if they have a boyfriend and you don't know, like there's no way of knowing that unless you go and try to talk with them. And they're like, well, I'm actually seeing someone. Then you just walk away in a way that they like, there's no pressure or anything. It's just, they feel better about themselves because you came and complimented them without needing anything in return. That's attractive. And
It is.
yeah. And sometimes, like I've even had rejection happen where if you handle it right, she called me back in 2 weeks saying, hey, I'd like to go on a date. And
That's cool.
it's like, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen that kind of thing too. So
Humor can also, that's why I started to laugh. Humor can also be another way to show confidence. And be gracious at the same time. And you kind of have to read the situation. But if they say something like, I'm actually seeing someone, you can say something like, that's okay, you can come too. Just like be completely ridiculous. And then you're like, no, I'm just kidding. Like, take it as a compliment. Have a great day, right? But humor is another one that can really show that their opinion of you, their reaction to you, doesn't affect how you feel about yourself, your opinion of your own self-worth and your confidence.
Yeah, that is great. So I want to jump to like, how do you actually do it? How do you actually approach and connect in a natural way? And that's like I would say your specialty. Like that is what you're really good at.
Thanks, man. It's so fun. It's fun because we live in a day and age where it's uncommon for people to know how to do it. It used to be so common back in the day, like dances, socials, before all this technology. Like it was common knowledge on how to approach a group of girls by yourself and know how to like start a conversation with the one you wanted to talk to. But like very few guys are capable of doing that, like in today's day and age, right? But there's ways of doing it. But in case that one stresses people out a little bit too much, the first thing that I'd say is like, bring your wingman. Bring your wingman with you and have a game plan. We used to call this what do we call it? I used to call it like the triple something or other. And it was basically this. I'd have two of my buddies. We'd be at some social gathering. And one of us would like stop the other two and be like, hey, see that girl over there? Red shirt? I want to get to know her. And the other two would be like, awesome, we got it, right? And we'd all walk over. One of your two friends volunteers to take the lead. Since he's not nervous, he thinks of some normal question he doesn't actually know the answer to ask this group of people or this specific person that I want to talk to, right? She's typically like with a friend or two. So he'll walk up. Like, for example, we were in downtown Provo one time doing this after a rooftop concert. And I was like, ooh, I want to go talk to her. My friend was like, cool, I got it. Or maybe it was the other way around. I don't remember. We walk up and he's like, hey, do you know what the other bands were that played here tonight? Like, was it just National Parks or was it like some other bands? Like, we got here late, right? Totally normal question. Totally comfortable to ask to a random stranger. And after we did, it was like, oh, cool. Did you guys come here at the beginning, right? And we start talking. And the goal of my two buddies is to distract whoever else she's with. And kind of like position their bodies like to where they're distracting them while I start a one-on-one conversation with the girl I want to talk to, with anything, right? It's just kind of like leading off from what we're talking about. It's like, oh, hey, like, are you pretty big into concerts? Do you come to a lot? I'm Nate, by the way, right? And we keep talking, and all of a sudden it's a one-on-one while they're distracting everyone else. And it's super easy to be like, cool, well, like, it'd be fun to go do something sometime. Like, what's your number?
Okay,
right?
so I want to jump in right there. You said like they kind of help move them so that you're in a position where you can talk one-on-one.
Or at least like make them focus more on them and kind of like distract. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
So
quite
like
move as much as like where they're faced and where their attention is.
okay, so let's say your wingmen are to your left, but she's like in the middle, or like there's three of them and she's in the middle. How do you get to that, like, okay, I'm going to connect one-on-one with you? Isn't that a little awkward?
No, I mean, you just got to find a smooth, not even smooth, just any sort of related transition from what you're already talking about as a group, which was, the topic of the question your friend asked them. Like in this case, it was concerts, right? And so as soon as like they're talking and they've positioned wherever they're standing so that you're next to the girl you want to talk to, whether it's they get out of the way or something, right? And you kind of got to like look at it as you're walking up and approaching. But as soon as they've done that, it's pretty easy to just like introduce yourself to her, or you can introduce yourself to everyone and introduce yourself to her last. And then it's totally comfortable to be like, oh, and like, do you come to these often? Like, are you into concerts? Whatever you want to say. Do you live here in Provo? Whatever that's like, whatever question is somehow related to what you're already talking about as a group.
Got it. Okay. So if she's in the middle, you got to be in the middle too. Like you have to be lined up in a way like you're in some kind of formation.
Typically at some sort of a circle. And if you like, all you need to do is be standing next to her, and then as soon as you turn and face her, she'll turn and face you. And that's when one of your buddies kind of steps in the center of the circle and forms a side circle and talks to the other people.
Oh, I love that.
That makes sense?
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Yeah, I think that like it would be easier to see it like play out visually,
I've done it at a couple of the places I've spoken and done workshops, but it is a fun one.
Well, that's great. Yeah, so that's a great natural way. It's like just so it feels so natural doing that.
Mm-hmm.
What about like a one-on-one situation, or what if you don't have wingmen?
Yeah. Questions are key. Well, even before that, questions are key in the moment. You've got to be able to be calm enough to think of some normal question, and you can't lie and ask a question you already know the answer to. They'll see right through it, and you'll feel nervous. And so it's got to be some normal question that you could ask a random stranger, even if it's a little bit like, oh, why are you asking me this? As long as it's a normal question you don't know the answer to, it's fine. And then you read their body language on whether or not they want to continue to talk to you. And if they don't, that's fine. Like you just saved yourself a ton of time, right? By actually going for it.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And that is something interesting that you said. You said you've got to read their body language.
Huge.
What does that look like? Because I know a lot of guys that I talk with, they don't understand how to read that.
Yeah. It's very symbolic. Are they closed off physically? They're closed off like emotionally and mentally. Are they looking at you physically, like, in the eyes? Are they giving you their full attention, like physically? Then, maybe they're interested in giving you their full attention emotionally, to like, go out on a date or whatever, mentally even enough to like be curious. What else? You can tell if someone's like facing you, they're like, oh yeah, I'm ready to talk. But if they're like, yeah, I gotta go, like their body language is telling you they want to turn and leave, right? Are they leaning backward or forward? Like, there's a lot of different, really simple symbolic cues. What does their body language symbolize about whether or not they could be a similar match in interest? And like I said, if it symbolizes a mismatched level of interest, just another normal person, just another part of the rule. That's totally fine. But yeah, is that helpful, or do you feel like there's more to
totally.
be more to be said about that?
Yeah, I think like if they look like they're trying to escape, they're turning away, they're not facing you. That's definitely an indicator. Hey, it's not good. And I've seen it too. Like you got to have strong body language, masculine body language as well, standing up tall and everything.
Yeah.
A little laid back, and relaxed and chill. Like that's very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
But her body language will kind of if she's interested, we'll mirror that. And instead of like her being leaned back, she's going to lean in.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to get closer to you, and like how close she is shows you how comfortable she is with you, right?
Yeah, again, the physical is symbolic of the mental, emotional feelings.
Yeah.
Like it almost always is some sort of a symbol for what they're thinking, how they're feeling.
Yeah. So right there, what's like the next step? You have your wingmen, they're helping you out, you're talking with her. So what's the next step?
The next step isn't possible unless people have taken the first step, which comes before you've even gone to the social. And that's, again, back to preparation. If you are prepared, you shall not fear. And the best thing I found to do when it comes to the next step of actually trying to set something up is you've got to have stuff to invite them to. You've got to have stuff going on. You've got to have things that are on your bucket list that you want to do, right? And in today's day and age, I feel like it's more comfortable, it's more likely you'll actually get a chance to get to know them if instead of asking them on a date right away, which I have done countless times, you just invite them to something you've already planned, a game night, whatever. And it's okay if you don't have something planned, you can throw something together, but the real thing that I found to be the most helpful in this regard is weekly planning.
Love it.
Well, because like if you do a thorough weekly planning session, you notice where you have time to be social. You don't just wait for something to happen. You say, what do I want to do? What's going on Facebook events in my area? What's happening? And whether you have people to go with or not, you put it into your calendar. And then the next time you like want to schedule something with even a friend, it's like, hey, I've got a bunch of things I want to do this week. You want to come? And it makes it that much easier to do that with the girls you want to eventually take on a date as well. Because you're like, hey, like, I'm like getting together some friends to like go to this event, to go to this dance, to go to this whatever's going on. And there's a lot more of it happening during the summer. And so it's cool that we're creating this video during the spring. But like the more things that you want to do that you've got tentatively scheduled, like even tentatively, right? The easier it is to be able to like see someone again, whether it's a date or just like hanging out until you ask them on a date.
Yeah, you have all these different options that you can pull from to use for whatever situation you're in.
Mm-hmm. And I actually used that with when I met my wife. We matched on mutual. I was a little bit unsure of whether like how interested I was, because you never know when it's all virtual. It's like so different from in person. And I wasn't sure, and so I was like, hey, like I'm doing another one of my events, which you've already like heard a little bit about. It's like a week from today. You want to come? She was like, yeah, that sounds like fun, right? Way low pressure, because even though since she didn't know me very well yet, it was low pressure because even if it didn't end up being something that she was interested in at the event, there was going to be a lot of other people for her to meet. So if you haven't taken the time when approaching a woman to like really have a lengthy, enjoyable like conversation where like things are pretty comfortable, then my recommendation is normally to invite them to something you were already planning on doing. Yeah. But to do weekly planning beforehand so you have something there.
Be prepared. I love that. And one thing that I want to point out as well is women, they love a man who is a leader. And if you are scheduling activities and you're doing that weekly planning and you're making things happen, that is going to be attractive. You're going to be the one at the party that knows everyone else. So you look like you're really high status, which also women love. And so it's really powerful, being connected and just bringing things together. And regardless, like you said, regardless if you and her clicked, you're providing value to her without asking anything in return.
It's a win-win.
You're saying, hey, you can come and meet other people too.
Yep.
So is that the best thing to do? Because a lot of times, like, you can either ask her on a date right there, you can ask her number, and you can like text a little bit or have another phone call conversation before asking her out again. What would you recommend is best?
I've done all of it. When I first came up for my mission, my main thing was I'm gonna get the number and I'm gonna like schedule a date right there, right then, right? And I did that a lot, and like it it panned out like fairly frequently, especially if it was at the institute and it just, we both felt like it was easy to trust each other. But I would dare say that things have changed a little bit since then. I would say that number one, it's a crazy world, and girls, like, one of their number one needs is to feel safe and secure, right?
Totally.
And if you don't think that they're like 100% feeling safe and secure around you yet, like, don't ask them on a date yet. Just invite them to something there. If you don't have something to invite them to right away off the top of your head or in your Google Calendar on your phone, then one of my favorite phrases became, "Hey, you're cool. Like, it'd be fun to see you again. What's your number?" And like, it was super simple. It wasn't like him gonna ask you out. It was like, "It'd be fun to see you again. Like, we should exchange numbers." Or like, "What's your number?" Right? Just super simple, super. Yeah, it's no commitment. But I loved doing that. Like, "Hey, you're cool. It'd be fun to see you again. Like, let's exchange numbers." Or, "You want to exchange numbers?"
Yeah, that's such a good line right there, because whether, like, let's say you don't have something in your back pocket that you can pull out and say, "Hey, come to this," you can at least stay connected. Because you have that initial connection. Yeah. And
sometimes I think that, I would say most of the time it's better not to ask them on a date right away or say, "Hey, it'd be fun to take you on a date." Most of the time I would say it's going to show more confidence and less like neediness to just have a casual like, "Hey, it was fun chatting with you. You're cool. Like, do you want to exchange numbers? Do something sometime? Or do you want to exchange numbers? It'd be fun to see you again." Something super casual like that, where it's like very open-ended. And that way you give them a chance to think about you a little bit. This guy that got their number, and you wait a day or so, or a little bit less than a day, and then you check your calendar if you didn't, check your calendar, or you hurry and plan something, and then you text them or call them.
It gives them a little bit more mystery, which women love, and time to think about you, and that is so crucial. Like, how my wife fell in love with me, I would say a lot of it was when I wasn't there, when I wasn't texting her. That was a big part of her falling in love with me, is missing me, thinking about me. And I would say maybe that's not the same for guys. I'm not really sure now that I'm thinking about it, but definitely for women, that's a huge part of attracting a woman.
Yeah, I would agree.
Great. So, what would you say, like, you've talked about this a little bit, but are there any pitfalls that guys should avoid doing, or some common pitfalls that you've seen?
Yeah. Pickup lines.
Oh, yes. Don't use pickup lines, right?
No,
Why?
I mean, for the most part, 99% of the time, it's I don't know, it's cheesy, like overly cheesy. It can almost seem creepy. Like, be a normal human being. Like, people want to be in a relationship with a normal human, right? They don't want to be in a relationship with someone that's like, I don't know, like doesn't act normal and casual in themselves. Some people have the personality to where, like, I don't know, they'll pull it off, right? But it's like, there's nothing to be gained by it, and so why even stress it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think that's a common pitfall. Not that it's like it's happening a lot, but I think sometimes media makes it seem like you have to have the most clever thing to say. You have to, like, compliment them with the first thing you say to them when you approach them. And it's like, no, my favorite phrase when I walked up to anyone in the hallway all the time was, "Hey, I don't think I've met you. I'm Nate. What's yours?" Like, "My name's Nate. What's your name?" "I don't think I've met you" was my favorite phrase. It was like, "Hey, I don't think I've met you. I'm Nate. What's your name?"
That is so natural and normal to say, right? But if you're like doing some weird pickup line, or cheesy pickup line, they're like, "Okay, you're weird," right? But like, "Hey, I don't think I've met you yet. My name's Nate." Like, oh, that's inviting and normal and friendly. It's easy, like, for a woman to respond well to that, right?
Yeah, another thing that I really enjoyed when I was in school on campus was if I'm walking the same direction of someone, whether I'm interested in like asking them on a date or not, to develop the habit of purposefully like getting up to the same like place they're at while you're walking the same way and be like, how's it going? Like, what's going on? How's your day going? You know, like just like starting up a casual conversation. Like a lot of times my first thing would be like, hey, how's it going? Where are you headed? Like, and that was it. You know?
Yeah.
And since I developed that as like a habit with everyone that I was walking the same direction with, like it was really easy to do that with girls that were attractive. I'd like walk a little bit faster, and as I was passing them, I'd kind of pass them a little bit first, then I'd be like, how's it going? Over my shoulder. I'd be like, good, how are you? Great, where are you headed? Like,
just so, yeah, that is so natural. And you're saying not just with women, but guys too, like
everyone.
Anybody.
Yeah,
just
that way it's
everyone
a habit.
Practice.
It's not scary anymore with the girls that are cute because you do it with everyone.
Yes, totally. There's this awesome book. It's called Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg. And he talks a lot about how small and simple things make great things come to pass. Just like Alma 37, 6-7. That's
so
such
true.
a great scripture. But one of the things that stops people from developing habits that he talks about is it's hard. And so he says, instead of doing a hard habit and trying to do that, make the habit easier. And so what I tell a lot of the guys I coach is, hey, instead of like trying to go talk with a girl and approach her, if that's too hard, just go walk by someone and give them a compliment and walk away. Like that is so easy. Anybody could do that.
That's a good place to start.
And you just start practicing that. And the more you repeat that, you're developing a muscle, and then it's going to build to the next thing. Okay, now what's easy is I'm going to just walk next to people and say, hey, how's it going? And not starting with women because maybe that's hard. Maybe that's too hard. But just starting somewhere until it gets easy. And then, boom, you're set.
Can I share something funny? Sorry, this just came to mind.
Yeah.
I did a social norms experiment once for one of my classes where we had to break a social norm and then write about it.
Great.
And I decided I was going to walk in the hallway. And you know, a lot of times if no one says anything in those encounters where you walk in the same way, if you end up walking at about the same pace, someone will always speed up or slow down because it's awkward to walk at the same speed right next to each other when you don't know each other. And so I like saw this guy in the hallway that was walking to class, and I like speed up a little bit until I'm walking like right next to him, like probably a foot or two apart. And we're walking at the same speed, and he tries to kind of like speed up, and so I do too, and I stick right with him. And like he tries to slow down, and so I slow down a little bit. Oh, it's so funny just to kind of like embrace the awkwardness of it and be like, this is so hilarious that we have these social norms. Anyway, that doesn't really apply, but I thought it was hilarious, so I thought I'd share it.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you have to do things like that may feel a little bit uncomfortable. But yeah, I love that story. That's amazing. It's good practice to go try to break a social norm.
It is.
Helps you get out of your comfort zone, and that allows you to connect with people more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So awesome.
Yeah, so true.
So Nate, we're hitting time, but I just want to ask, what else? Like, are there any other things that you really want to hit on with helping guys and learning how to approach women and connect with women in natural ways?
Yeah, one caution. The caution is this. Don't make what I say and how I do it and the action your primary focus. Your primary focus needs to be internal. It needs to be on choosing to acknowledge fears and negative beliefs and challenging them, choosing to change them, choosing to replace them with something positive. Because if we can stay feeling good, we can stay feeling ourselves, you can do and say almost anything confidently, and it can still come across as confident. Like it can still come across as attractive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's the caveat. Like there are certain little things that if we do, they are helpful, but they're not the end all be all. And if they're done when we're feeling crummy or we're feeling like, not ourselves, they can still come across insincere or I guess unauthentic.
Inauthentic.
And
Yep.
inauthentic. And so I guess I would just say the primary focus should always be working on yourself and making sure that you're in a healthy place with your beliefs and your feelings, and you're emotionally aware of yourself.
Yeah.
Because if we can be aware of like us and to make sure that like we're feeling good, we're feeling confident, yeah, it's like I said, you can do and say almost anything. You can use almost any awkward situation, any random situation to strike up a conversation. So yeah, I think that would be the one caution.
So the caution is focus on internal first.
Yes. The other stuff is helpful. I found myself, because the other stuff we can turn into habits where we're not really even thinking about it anymore, right? And it can be helpful in small ways. But even people that like say crazy stuff, weird stuff, right? And even awkward situations, if they're feeling good, if they're feeling like themselves, if they're feeling full of light, it's still attractive. Like some of the most attractive, like some of the girls I was the most attracted to when I was dating broke social norms all the time because they owned it. And I guess, yeah, along with that, people always tell you to be yourself in dating, right? And this is something I'm going to put in my book someday. But I always tell people, what does that look like? Well, it looks like this. It looks like confidently sharing the aspects of your personality that are less socially acceptable.
Ooh.
That's what it looks like.
Deep right there. Wow.
Confidently
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, truly being yourself is confidently sharing the aspects of your personality that are a little bit less socially acceptable. For example, say we're talking about movies, a girl and I, and she's like, "What's one of your favorite movies?" If I was being honest, with one of the first things that would probably come to my mind, I would say 2015 live action Cinderella. It's awesome. It teaches so many good things, right? How many guys would say that their favorite movie was Cinderella? Like, that's not socially normal or acceptable, right?
Yep.
Like, you want to appear macho. But if you say it confidently because it's the truth, and that is the truth for me. I love that movie. There's so many good messages in it. And you own it. It's so attractive because it's real. And people want to date someone real.
Yes. People do want to date someone real. And, you know, something that I say is, I think it's good advice to be yourself in the sense of, hey, be authentic. Don't just be some fake facade, right?
Mm-hmm. But
another thing I would just add to that is don't just be yourself, but become a better version of yourself too.
Absolutely.
And that is like a great example of, okay, I'm going to be confident and vulnerable in sharing something that's not super acceptable about me, but I'm going to do it and I'm going to own it.
Yeah.
That's a great example of really doing that.
Yeah.
So,
and specifically with things that like don't go against, don't go against like having high standards. It's the stuff that doesn't matter. It's the little silly things that don't matter. If we're confidently sharing like, I don't know, an aspect of our personality that's like less, less, what's the right way to say this? Do you know what I mean, Matt? There's a balance here too.
You can go too far.
It's like we all have actual weaknesses that we wish were different about ourselves, right? We have weaknesses we want to turn to strengths. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the little things that are totally fine. There's nothing bad about them at all, but they're just a little bit less socially acceptable, right? Like the movie example. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, awesome. That is super helpful, Nate. I really appreciate your time and taking time to help us out here. And just to wrap things up, my friend, you who are listening, I want to tell you that you can do hard things, you can do amazing things, and you can be confident just like Nate described with whatever situation, even if it seems a little socially unacceptable or whatever. And you can find your dream woman. She's out there. Your future wife is out there. She's waiting for you. She's waiting for you to step up and to connect with her.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is the most rewarding thing in the world, is to actually do that. And then you feel good about yourself. You have wins. And yeah, along the way, you may get rejected a lot, just like Nate was talking about, but it's all going to be worth it in the end. And you'll be so grateful, and she will be so grateful. So thank you so much for tuning in, and you guys have a great rest of your day. If you like Nate Clark and what he had to say, to give him a thank you, check out his website. There's a link in the description below. It's stoke.coach/connection heights. And that is where you can learn about codes for connection. Thank you so much and have a great day.